Prison Diaries, the hidden horrors of life for women behind bars. Subscribe for more real crime stories. Like, share, and join the discussion below. The atmosphere was thick with tension on that fateful morning at the Indiana Women's Prison in Indianapolis. The sun barely peeked through the heavy clouds as guards rushed through the facility, their radios crackling with urgency. Code Red. Code Red echoed through the halls, sending a chill down the spines of the inmates. A body had been discovered. In cell block D, a lifeless figure lay at the foot of the bed, 29-year-old Lisa McIntyre, an inmate serving time for drug charges. Her face was pale, and a sheen of perspiration marked her forehead. Inmates crowded around the scene, eyes wide with shock and fear. As paramedics arrived, the chaos deepened. Lisa's death was not an accident or the effects of her troubled past. It was a murder, a calculated act that rippled through the prison like wildfire. Whispers quickly spread among the inmates. Speculation was rife, with certain names whispered in hushed tones. Who could be responsible? What had led to this horrifying moment? Suspicion quickly turned towards another inmate, Tara Evans, whose volatile behavior had raised red flags. But as the guards began their investigation, it became clear that things were not as simple as they seemed. Hidden alliances and unspoken fears lay just beneath the surface, waiting to erupt. What could the investigation uncover in the grim reality of women's incarceration? As officers delved deeper into the personalities, relationships, and the lingering shadows of prison life, they faced a web of lies and secrets that would threaten to unravel everything. Who actually pulled the trigger on Lisa's life? And who else might be caught in the crossfire? To understand Lisa McIntyre's tragic death, we must first explore the life she led before incarceration. Born and raised in a small town in Indiana, Lisa was the eldest daughter in a loving family. Her parents, committed to providing a stable home, nurtured her dreams of becoming a nurse. However, the dark shadows of life began to creep in when she entered her teenage years. Struggling with early heartbreak and rejection, Lisa turned to friends who introduced her to drugs as a means of escape. What began as casual experimentation soon spiraled into a full-blown addiction. By the time she was 25, Lisa had faced multiple arrests for possession and was caught in a cycle of legal battles that would lead to her sentencing at the Indiana Women's Prison. Inside the prison walls, Lisa fought to reclaim her life. She joined educational programs, attending classes aimed at helping women like her regain their footing. Yet, the realities of her environment clawed at her commitment to change. Amidst the backdrop of rehabilitation initiatives, personal histories intertwined. Lisa formed close ties with Tara Evans, an inmate known for her outbursts and rebellious spirit. Initially drawn together by similar backgrounds, their bond quickly deepened. But as struggles for power began to surface, the complexities of their friendship created an atmosphere ripe for conflict. Tara had always been a firecracker, quick to rage and quicker to defend herself. Her reputation preceded her, making her both feared and respected among the inmates. When Lisa's newfound commitment to changing her life began to overshadow Tara's own struggles, envy began to fester. Tensions mounted as their friendship teetered on the brink of collapse. One day, during a scheduled exercise period, an argument erupted over mundane issues. What had started as simple jealousy escalated into a fierce confrontation on the prison yard, sending guards rushing to separate them. This incident would foreshadow the tragic events that lay just around the corner. The whispers of animosity between the two women grew as others watched the drama unfold. It became clear that the dynamics within the prison were shifting. But who would come out on top, and at what cost? The weeks leading up to Lisa McIntyre's tragic death were marked by a slow-burning tension that filled the halls of the Indiana Women's Prison. Lisa's determination to avoid conflict and focus on her education clashed sharply with Tara's escalating aggression. As the conflict intensified, whispers of danger circulated among the inmates. On the surface, everything seemed typical in the prison: morning inspections, group therapy sessions, and exercise in the courtyard. But underneath this routine lay an undercurrent of dread. Lisa began to feel isolated, losing touch with her broader support network as Tara rallied those who shared her disdain for Lisa's changes. Friends of Tara began to watch Lisa more closely, waiting for the moment they could strike. Lisa often reflected on the dangers that lurked in the shadows of her environment. The prison had a code, and betrayal ran rampant among the inmates. During her time in educational programs, she had learned about the 3 R's: respect, reputation, and revenge. One fateful evening, tensions reached a boiling point during an altercation in the dining hall, where a disagreement over food portions escalated into chaos. Guards intervened as food trays flew and screams pierced the air. Lisa could feel the hostility closing in around her, the simmering rage threatening to explode. Each incident brought her closer to an inevitable confrontation. Amidst the growing chaos, Lisa received chilling warnings from fellow inmates. "Watch your back," they would say, their expressions grave. She attempted to remain steadfast, believing that her commitment to self-improvement would shield her from the darker sides of prison life. Yet, the whispers grew louder, revealing a different story. As the days turned into weeks, Lisa would find herself standing on the brink of danger, a precarious edge teetering between her desire for change and the temptation to revert to former habits, both a victim and a target. On that fateful day, when the alarm echoed through the prison, few could have predicted the events that would lead to Lisa's untimely demise. The scene was set for violence to rear its head once again, and as tensions escalated in cell block D, it was only a matter of time before tragedy struck. In the immediate aftermath of Lisa McIntyre's death, the Indiana women's prison became a cauldron of fear and uncertainty. Guards scrambled to protect the inmates and control the growing unrest. Lisa's lifeless body was removed, but the specter of her death continued to loom large over the facility. Detectives began questioning inmates, piecing together the events leading up to that tragic morning. As they delved deeper into the lives of the women behind bars, it became apparent that the relationships among inmates were far more complex than they had initially believed. Tara Evans quickly emerged as a person of interest, her erratic behavior and history with Lisa drawing scrutiny. But remained silent, Tara clung to her innocence, portraying herself as a victim of a flawed system while casting blame on the chaotic environment surrounding her. In the meantime, the prison's administration struggled to maintain order. Rumors circulated, leading to fears of retaliation among the inmates. Friends of both Lisa and Tara began to take sides, forming factions that escalated the hostility. The tension in the air became more palpable with each passing day, setting the stage for a showdown. Lisa's family, devastated by the news, began to mount their own search for answers. They reached out to advocacy groups, reminding the public of the need to put pressure on the prison system to investigate adequately. They sought interviews with reporters, sharing stories of Lisa's struggles and dreams while pressing for justice. As the community became aware of the situation, the media began to cover the unfolding story, highlighting the extremes of life behind bars for women. Local news stations broadcast images of the prison, interspersed with interviews from fellow inmates who spoke about their lives and the dangers of retribution in a closed environment. While the investigation continued, Tara found herself further under the spotlight, and the once supportive relationships among inmates began to fracture. One evening, during a recreation period, an explosive confrontation erupted as inmates from different factions faced off. The chaos resembled a boiling pot ready to explode, and just as tensions peaked, the sound of sirens cut through the air. Police were on their way. With lives hanging in the balance, the reality of the prison system was laid bare. Would the investigation yield the answers Lisa's family sought, and would justice be served before the walls closed in around Tara? The stakes had never been higher, and everyone involved was about to feel the repercussions of their choices. Time continued to move, but for the women at Indiana Women's Prison, each day felt like an eternity as the investigation into Lisa McIntyre's death unfolded. Tensions remained high, with various factions battling for dominance and survival. The nights grew restless, and rumors filled the air like smoke, each claim more shocking than the last. As the trial approached, the world outside began to take notice. Media coverage intensified, amplifying the personal stories of the women involved. Lisa's family fought bravely for justice, determined to see accountability for her death. They became public faces in the fight against systemic issues within the prison, advocating for better resources and protections for incarcerated women. In a shocking twist, new evidence surfaced. Text messages from Tara, discovered on her contraband phone, hinted at a deeper conspiracy among the inmates. They contained veiled threats against Lisa, suggesting a premeditated attack. Detectives raced to analyze the timeline, which illuminated the adversarial relationships in the prison and raised serious doubts about Tara's claims of innocence. As the courtroom proceedings began, the tension among the inmates inside the prison translated to the courtroom. Family members, reporters, and inmates gathered, eager to witness justice for Lisa. Tara sat nervously at the defendant's table, her eyes darting across the room, fear leaking from her expression. Would she get away with her actions, or would the evidence ultimately turn against her? In a gripping moment during the trial, a key witness, a former ally of Tara's, stepped forward, offering to testify against her. This revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom. As the witness recounted the events leading up to the altercation, the narrative shifted dramatically, turning the tide in favor of the prosecution. The realization that betrayal coursed through their veins left the courtroom breathless. With the weight of the evidence stacking up against her, Tara faced the possibility of a life-altering decision. As the final arguments were presented, a sense of urgency filled the air. Would she take responsibility for her actions, or continue weaving a tale that threatened to implode? The verdict loomed, each person holding their breath for what would come next. The final decision made in that courtroom would echo through the lives of everyone involved, shaping narratives about justice, accountability, and the indomitable spirit of those who seek a better tomorrow behind bars. What would the jury decide, and who would finally face the consequences of a life so brutally cut short?